Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
Hello and welcome back to The Catholic Mama. I'm your host, Christine Mooney-Flynn, and thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Catholic Mama podcast, where we are going to go over some book recommendations, Catholic book recommendations for various topics and moods and desires. Right, husband?
The Catholic Book Club.
Yeah. Isn't that nice?
Yes, very nice.
So I just made, we told our families and just made the announcement online, but we've got another baby on the way, which is very exciting.
As you're yawning and rubbing your eyes.
I know. I'm not doing so good. I'm a little tired. So we have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old on the every other year plan. And we got a baby coming this fall. So I'm a little tired. And I'm so glad that you're here.
Yes, well, I've got to hold you accountable. The show continues to run smoothly. And we've been through it before. As many people know, husbands often get sympathy symptoms, and I have to say you've never known it like I know it, Christine.
I know, it must be really hard for you.
It's exceedingly difficult at times. But there is something there, like whenever you first get pregnant, I definitely feel different. I don't know why or what causes it, but I definitely feel it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a wonderful thing, but it really does take its toll.
Oh, on your body? Takes its toll on your body? Yeah, this happens, and then it goes away for you, and the first trimester stuff goes away for me as well, so just a few more weeks of feeling queasy.
Yeah.
The fatigue is not just, we have 3 small kids.
This is true.
It's just always going to be there, regardless of if I'm pregnant or not. Actually, that just reminded me, because I haven't said this lately. I put we had a cute little announcement picture that I put up on Facebook and Instagram. If you're not following me already on Instagram, and you are on Instagram and want to, it's The Catholic Mama, spelled just like the podcast, surprisingly. No, and I had asked on Instagram if there were any home birth veterans out there, because there's 2 different things about this, actually 3 different things about this pregnancy than others. First one is we're Catholic, so this whole pregnancy is, we didn't convert until our youngest was 6 months or 7 months old, and so we're Catholic. But that's not the other thing was we're keeping this one a surprise, whether it's a boy or girl.
Correct. Right,
we haven't done that, but that's not the other thing was we're keeping this one a surprise, whether it's a boy or girl.
Correct.
Right, we haven't done that before, and so far we're planning on a home birth. So on Instagram, I had asked, when I put up the picture of the announcement, I had asked any home birth veterans to chime in with any advice. So if anybody's listening and you are a home birthing veteran and have any advice or thoughts, either come find me on Instagram, or when we think about this, and I haven't said this in a while, is if you go to thecatholicmama.com/contact, there's a little form there that you can fill out, web form. You fill out real quick and send along a comment or a question. So you can get in touch there. And anytime that we, any topics that we cover that you are interested in or would like to hear me cover, or you want more information on, you can go to thecatholicmama.com/contact and leave your question there, and I will.
Where to start? Actually, this is relevant because somebody posted a thread on Facebook. I got into a Facebook conversation. It wasn't an argument. Can you believe it?
Oh, that's nice.
And she was asking for a list of books to share that people have found effective when dialoguing with other people who are not Christians. So I have recently had this topic on mine, so very relevant.
Oh, hey, that's good. Yeah, I was just thinking about, hey, we get books delivered here almost daily. And you're able to get through books faster than I am. I think you're a faster reader than I am. Can you say you're a speed reader?
I can, but speed reading is not It's not what people think crack it up to be. You can train yourself to speed read, but speed read isn't great for comprehension. And it's good for acquiring information quickly. But if you're wrestling with a book that's challenging and worth spending time on, you're probably not going to speed read it, because you're probably going to read in a different style. So I don't speed read a lot of the books that I'm working through, because they tend to be technical and require multiple passes and highlighting certain things and this or that. So even though I can speed read, I don't do it much unless I'm really just trying to
stuff the brain with something.
It's like looking at some trashy news site or something like
that. Okay, well, that said, you are still a quick reader, or you get through books very quickly, but you don't. You select read, don't like the chapters. Anyway, so we're constantly getting books here. We talk about books all the time. We talk about reading. You and I don't typically read the same books.
No.
We get into different topics. But I was thinking about, well, actually the books that I would give to somebody that I wanted to explain my faith to, why I became Christian or Catholic. And how to explain suffering. So there were a couple of topics that I wanted to get into to give book recommendations for. So, and I was also thinking of the books that made me come out of my previous belief that there wasn't a God, and if there was, it wasn't a Christian God, and previous belief that there wasn't a God. And if there was, it wasn't a Christian God, and then to come into Catholicism. So I don't know how you want to, if you have any recommendations, we're talking about book recommendations, if you have any recommendations on how to tackle this topic.
Certainly, I think breaking it up into categories is helpful. For example, you brought up suffering. What would be some book recommendations on that? Because that's a huge topic. So there's a number of books that would fall well into that category. Now, any book that is trying to deal with Christianity in general probably will touch on suffering at some point. But there's been a lot of books, tomes really, dedicated to just that subject. There's also the category of apologetics or philosophy and theology. So really, it depends what you're looking for. If you're already in the Catholic faith and you're looking to deepen your understanding of the faith and theology, then Catholic faith, or you're trying to bring somebody else in and you're trying to explain it or defend it, I think maybe we offer some recommendations for each. How about that?
Sure. Do
you want to begin?
Well, can we just start at the very beginning, like the books that and I think we've talked about this actually on a previous episode, but not trying to explain the Christian faith when you're not Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. The first one was the one that you recommended to me, and it's slipping my mind right now.
The Case for Christ.
The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel. Thank you. Oh boy,
it's okay. You're pregnant.
Oh, that's right.
You get a pass, and I like that book a lot because Lee was an investigative journalist who his famous story, and it really is famous now. That book has sold millions of copies. They even made a movie out of it, which wasn't terrible. And
no, it wasn't bad.
Like you approach Christian movies with your guard up because we're just a little jaded, but. It's a nice book because Lee does a good job. He actually examines a number of very well-respected Christian philosophers and theologians who, if nothing else, that book will expose you to many great Christian thinkers, the types of people he interviews, such as William Lane Craig or Peter Kreeft and so on. And the reason I like that book is because Lee's a journalist, and the reason I thought you would like it is not only does he present a case and give a very good summary for the defense of the Christian faith, but he does so in a really engaging way. He makes it kind of seem like he's solving, I don't want to say a murder scene, but he's solving a crime, right? He's really on the hunt. So I like recommending that book. There's a reason it's a bestseller. It's very engaging. But sometimes you're cautious with popular works. Sometimes you're cautious with popular works like that because it could be engaging, but maybe it's actually like dull in the sense that the arguments aren't very good. But that's not the case. Lee was very thorough, and he got together some of the best Christian philosophers, apologists, theologians. So it's not going to have like the enormous depth that you'll find in some other books, but it's definitely sufficient to get somebody who's curious or skeptical seeing, oh, there is a case for Christ.
Yep, that's exactly what happened for me. It answered some of the hangups that I had. It was nice feeling like this is somebody who had a perspective similar to mine at one point that didn't believe in any of this. And then he used real historical evidence and data to prove otherwise. But he answered. The one thing that got me was, I grew up in the Bible Belt, and, hearing it would come up. Jesus Christ died for your sins. And I'd be like, what does that mean? I don't even know what that means. What is, I don't get it. And nobody ever explained it to me besides hearing bad, evangelizing at school or at sleepovers. So when he explained the dying for your sins thing, it was so clear. And that was the particular chapter, because each chapter discusses a different topic or question about his journey and into Christianity. So that really helped me, because it was in an engaging way, and he did it with historical evidence. It wasn't just somebody's going by faith alone.
Yes, and it's kind of fun because he kind of comes at it as a skeptic, like, yes, but. So he's raising a lot of the very common objections that you'll likely run into when dialoguing with other people. So that's often helpful. So that's often helpful. Just in the formatting of the book I think it's very realistic in the sense that chances are you may have had some of these questions or objections yourself, but very likely you're going to run into these exact same points in conversation. So I think it's a really good starting apologetic handbook. Yeah,
it was very helpful for me.
More along those lines, starting Christian apologetics books.
Sure.
Yeah, well, I think Mere Christianity is a must. I mean, there's no excuse to have not read the corpus of C.S. Lewis. I mean, there's just no excuse. The man was a brilliant writer, so all of his stuff is incredibly engaging and really, really accessible. But he was a brilliant thinker as well, and he really wrestled with the questions and gave such powerful answers and defenses for the Christian religion, mere Christianity, meaning he's just trying to get at the common core of Christian belief. I like to call it mere Catholicism. He was pretty much there. But it's so well done that people often don't give Lewis, I think, the credit that he's due as a philosopher and as a thinker, because it's so well written and it's so accessible. I don't think people fully appreciate how well he develops a lot of the arguments, like the moral argument, the beginning of Mere Christianity, and his book Miracles is a must. So the two from Lewis you absolutely must read are Mere Christianity and Miracles in terms of apologetics.
Can you explain a little bit what Miracles is?
Yeah, so Miracles he's making a case for the possibility of miracles, and then, from there, the miracles of the Christian faith. But he really starts off by examining the failures of naturalism, which is kind of the strongest form of atheism. So he do it very philosophically, but again, in a very accessible way. And then once he kind of opens the door for supernaturalism and shows, like, look, like this is the worldview that makes sense, well, now you really shouldn't have any prior objection to the possibility of miracles being there. So it's even though you might think like the title is somewhat misleading. Like, he's not going through and talking about all these different miracles and why they're cool and you should be interested in them. It's actually a much deeper and more important philosophical treatment leading up to the great Christian tradition, for example. So I think that's a very general overview. It doesn't even do it justice. But I would start with Mere Christianity, and I would go right to Miracles with C.S. Lewis.
Very cool. It's funny. I only knew C.S. Lewis because he wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe series. And I remember when I found out that it was that series had a Christian. Out that it was that series had Christian themes to it, I was disappointed because I felt like it ruined it. I was so anti-religion at that point. I felt like it ruined those series. I really had some problems there, some hang-ups.
Well, look at you
here
now.
we are. I know, here we are.
Really?
I can laugh about it.
Mm-hmm.
I saw you actually pulling up a book. Was that another one?
Well, yeah. We have the Essential Plato here, so if anyone wants to become a Platonist, you can dive in with that, or go be a Neoplatonist. Go with like Augustine or City of God or something like that. No, I was just seeing what was around, but I have in my hand Life of Christ by Fulton Sheen. So this could work as either or. You know, this would be, I think, an effective evangelization and apologetic book by itself, but certainly for people who really just want a much deeper understanding of the life of Christ from a historical perspective. And Fulton Sheen was such a scholar, and he's such a great writer and so good and so thorough that this would be a must read. Life of Christ by Fulton Sheen, Bishop Fulton Sheen. I haven't even finished it. I'm almost through it, but I fully recommend
that
it.
actually reminds me, and I know I'm gonna skip ahead for 2 seconds, get from intro to Christianity to something that a very strong belief in Catholicism is about Mary. And that just reminded me because Fulton Sheen, one of his books that I've read that I didn't understand Mary that well, and reading The World's First Love by Fulton Sheen was very, very impactful. He's like you said, he's a scholar, but what a beautiful writer. And he really brought her to life. Ahead.
So for Marian apologetics.
Yeah, for Marian apologetics. Behold Thy Mother by Tim Staples, and then Fulton Sheen's The World's First Love. Amazing books about Mary.
Yes, and now we're going to go back
I
again.
know, sorry, yes.
No, so I would say after Lewis, it's kind of obligatory for Catholics or anybody who wants to point people in the direction of Catholicism to go to Chesterton. And I would say Orthodoxy and The Everlasting Man would be the two necessary reads from Chesterton.
What's that phrase? C.S. Lewis will get you.
Yeah, Lewis will make you a Christian. Chesterton will make you a Catholic.
That's it. Okay.
And that's pretty much it. Like that's a pretty minimum effective apologetic there. I'm just looking at some of the other books around here.
Yeah, there's another Chesterton book.
Oh, you know what? The books that I really love and I would recommend are Father Spitzer's books. So many of you may the books that I really love and I would recommend are Father Spitzer's books. So many of you may know Father Spitzer from EWTN. He's been on my podcast. He's coming on again tomorrow. I can't forget my chat with Father Spitzer tomorrow. His quartet of books that start with Finding True Happiness. Includes God So Loved the World, Soul's Upward Yearning, and then the last one on Suffering, which I had not yet gotten through. But the Soul's Upward Yearning in particular is an incredible apologetic book, not only for the existence of God, a transphysical soul, and he comes at it from so many different angles, philosophically, scientifically. His research on their near-death experiences and terminal lucidity is absolutely fascinating. He gives that a really extensive treatment. The historicity of the resurrection. So the Soul's Upward Yearning and God So Loved the World, those phenomenal from Father Spitzer. I can't recommend them enough. And he is also a tremendous scholar, but his writing is still very accessible and engaging. And then the other one I have in my hands now is a little bit more technical. But for any of you who are interested in going deeper in apologetics, this one's called New Proofs for the Existence of God, Contributions of Contemporary Physics and Philosophy. And this is a very, very good book. And he looks at the discoveries of modern cosmology, like the fine-tuning of the universe, and how these really can only be explained, or if you want to be more conservative about it, are certainly best explained by intelligence, and gives a really strong case both from the new developments in contemporary physics and also philosophy. So if you're interested in natural theology and apologetics, definitely new proofs of the existence of God of Father Switzer. But I would start with definitely new proofs of the existence of God of Father Switzer. But I would start with Soul's Upward Yearning from him.
Okay. And then, not a book, certainly, but you mentioned that he's on EWTN. His show, Father Spitzer's Universe, is really good. He answers a lot of questions that people write in that are basic questions, but really, I think they're really interesting.
They're
Just
great.
things that, wondering, like, I wonder if, what are we going to do when, or, whatever, about the Catholic faith. And other people write in. I guess you could write in, too. People could write in.
Yeah, he's great.
He answers, and he answers them in real depth, considering that, they have to move through quite a few of these questions.
And I know he's
show.
I know he's on EWTN, but I feel like his books are somewhat of a hidden gem. I've read a lot of books, and his are really good. But I don't see too many people recommending his. But
we'll certainly do it here.
They're top notch, so definitely grab.
I should say have all links for all these books, so you don't have to take notes. Take notes, because I might not get to the show notes page right away. Take notes, but I will also link to all these books later.
Yes.
What's another good category?
Well, let's go deeper into Catholic theology now, and I think the book is actually over by the lamp. It's Theology and Sanity by Frank Sheed, and that one is fantastic. It is it's incredibly well written. So this gentleman was a street preacher for many years, so he kind of tested out everything on the street and saw what got people's attention and what didn't when it came to evangelization. But my understanding is before he got into that, he was a lawyer, I think. So he's very good at presenting arguments, making cases. But, the book goes into everything. I found the section on angels particularly interesting. And the whole idea is, of theology and sanity. Sanity is making sure you're seeing the world as it actually is. And the case that he makes is that the sane view is seeing the world as the church sees the world. So the whole book is about trying to get you to see the world as the church sees the world.
That's interesting.
Which is really cool. It is really interesting, which is really taking you through Catholic theology, saying if you want to be sane, you have to see the world as it is. The way the world is the way God designed it. This is God's church. We need to see the world as the church sees it. So definitely pick up Theology and Sanity. Really good.
That's right. I didn't even know that was over there.
It's over there. Mm-hmm.
Well, there's just so many books. They're everywhere. It's hard to keep track.
It is. I'm trying to think of other categories that.
What about Thomas Joseph White?
Oh yeah, his book, The Light of Christ. So we recommended Life of Christ, but Thomas Joseph White's The Light of Christ, an Introduction to Catholicism, is awesome. And this is the book that if you just want to deepen your own understanding of the Catholic faith and theology, definitely get that. It gives an introductory treatment, but still good depth on the essentials of the Catholic faith. But this would be the book to put in somebody's hands who's open and seeking, and they kind of want to know more, right? It's not a full-on apologetic where it's trying to crush or choke a skeptic, for example. It's we've recommended some of those books already. This is somebody who's okay. I'm interested. I'm seeking. I want to know more, and so this is the person who's kind of not on the fence anymore, but they're slightly off of it. Our sweet Saint Bernard is now trying to escape her around the podcasting apparatus here. That's okay. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. We pretty much just had a Saint Bernard almost unplug all of our podcasting equipment. But we were talking about The Light of Christ by Father Joseph White, and I said this is a book to hand to somebody who's open and curious about the Catholic faith and really just genuinely wants to know more. This is a wonderful introduction for them. I think another useful few recommendations would be, of course, as you hinted before Lola stampeded through here, is Scott Hahn, and that would be useful for Protestants because Scott Hahn is a famous convert to the Catholic faith, Bible scholar, and how his deeper study and understanding of Scripture caused him to be Catholic, and somebody very similar to him who also converted to the Catholic faith, from Protestantism would be Peter Kreeft. And Peter Kreeft has just got a ton of books. I mean, he's got, I guess, start with his handbook for Christian apologetics, if you're interested in that. He's also got a book called Catholics and Protestants, I think What We Can Learn from One Another is a subtitle. And he's got a wonderful little book on heaven.
I was just thinking about that one.
Yeah, he's got a really fascinating, interesting book about heaven. It's, everything you want to know about heaven, but we're too shy to ask or too afraid to ask or something like that.
What's funny is that that's the one, we keep that one in the car.
Yeah.
And not on purpose, but it's actually worked out because the times that we're in the car is the only time when the kids ask about heaven for some reason. Driving along just jogs their or pushes their thoughts towards heaven, and or that when we're talking, we both pulled that book out. Like, wait a minute, we just pull it out of the back pocket of the seat.
It's a wonderful book, and it's not cheeky or stupid. It's he really does try to give a serious treatment, but Peter
and they're good
Kreeft
answer. Yeah,
is a great writer. He's a great philosopher and thinker, and. Yeah, so I would definitely pick up some of those. So that's a lot that we covered. That's going to keep you busy reading for a while.
Yeah.
That's a good number of books.
Yeah. You should try to read a book a month at least, if you're not already. There's very dour statistics about how many books people read outside of high school. So keep at it, folks, if you're not reading currently. Pick up a book. Actually, they said the book industry was very excited there for a minute because they said, oh, finally, book sales are going back up. This was a couple years ago. Do you know what spurred that?
What?
Adult coloring books. So people weren't reading, they were coloring.
Yeah.
So pick up some books, make the book industry happy, make your brain happy.
And if when the show notes goes up, we'll link these books in there, and if we think of it, I mean, I can certainly think of more, but
that's good for this episode. Yeah, that's good for this episode. We don't want to overwhelm anybody.
Very good. Well, how about this? How about you give one starting recommendation of all those? What's the one?
Well, I would just go with the one I started with.
Case for Christ.
Yeah,
that's
Case
fair.
for Christ.
Yeah,
but it just really depends on
where you're at.
Yeah, where you're at. That was the one that got me.
And I would say, if you haven't read it already, just read Mere Christianity. I feel it's a book that I put it off for so long because I'm like, Mere Christianity, it's like popular, so it probably isn't that good. You know what I mean? I went for like the deep philosophical works, and I just kind of like, I don't need that one. Yeah, no, that was my mistake. I went back, like, wow, this is amazing. I should have started with this one. So definitely do that if you haven't read it before.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, I hope happy reading for everyone, and until next.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.